Hello and welcome to episode 349 of Sutton and Back Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill. And Jason, let's just start off whining right away.
Okay, let's do it.
The Steelers are absolutely the worst I've seen since the early 80s and possibly as bad as the mid 60s, which you wouldn't have seen.
No.
But they're hideous. I mean, I just don't, you can't. They've had a lot of injuries this year, and that's part of it. I mean, yesterday they lost both of the starting safeties, and you would think that would have been a big factor, but Indianapolis didn't even run. They just ran the ball, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
They weren't passing on him, and in fact, the announcers even said they should be throwing. Those two guys are out of the game, but they couldn't stop the run. And the reason they couldn't stop the run is they were exhausted because they were on the field the whole time.
Yeah. And I think some people just don't care anymore.
No, they're playing at the string. They're going to go 7, just like we talked about on the show. They'll go 7-10.
Yeah.
They can't even muster an accidental thing unless the Ravens decide they're going to lay down their last game,
Yeah.
protect their players. But since it's the Steelers, I think the Ravens would just try and embarrass them. I don't think they would sit out guys.
Yeah. And
even if they do sit out guys, I'm not sure this version of the Steelers are good enough to beat them.
no, and I mean, honestly, at this point, Minka's got the leg thing. His hand is he's just got that big round fist because he's playing with a broken hand. Just shut him down. Let TJ Watt keep going for the sack leader thing if he wants to do it. But I mean, yeah, and again, I've been very anti Mason Rudolph on this show, and we saw a sighting of him yesterday when he finally got to come in the game for the awful Mitch Trubisky. But I'm good. Just play him too. Whatever.
I wouldn't play Mitch Trubisky again. He's hideous. I mean, the Bears picking him as high as they did
Yeah.
shows me that's as bad as any draft pick ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Because he just can't play. I mean, he's terrible.
no, but he falls into that Zach Wilson camp where if you put him on, you put him to the combine, and you measure him, and you watch his hand size and his arm strength, and you think he's 21 years old. He played in under a unique situation in college. We'll bring him in here. We'll coach him up. He'll be good to go. It just happens every year, right? That's why Brock Purdy and Tom Brady fall late in the draft, and other guys rise ways up because I mean you can't teach certain things.
No.
And Trubisky,
I mean, it's sad to watch.
yeah, I mean I think he's he has started his last game as a known starter going into the league. I'm sure he'll end up on a backup somewhere, either next year in Pittsburgh or somewhere else, where he'll probably get a start due to injury. But yeah, he's just bad.
And my question would be why? I mean, why? He's not any good. That's a roster spot you should save.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean there'll be somebody that'll be like, yeah, this Pittsburgh was a mess. He's still got enough physical tools to be our backup. We'll bring him in.
Well, let's talk about some other teams now. I like the Bengals right now.
Yeah, and there's another quarterback that looks very competent, right?
So I picked up for my backup for my fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
I won't start him, but if anything happens to Purdy, then I get a backup.
but Jake Browning should not look as good. That's the other frustrating. I know I'm probably going to keep whining about the Steelers for a little while from time to time, as they're now in last place in their own division. But Jake Browning is just sitting on somebody's bench, and he's better than everybody the Steelers have.
And you're going to get to see the head-to-head next week.
Yeah, and I guess while we're talking Steelers, shout out to the Colts who lost their first round pick Anthony Richardson and rallied around Gardner Minshew, who somehow is available every single year.
Yeah, and I think Gardner Minshew could play.
Yeah, I mean the Colts are 8-6. They're right in the thick of it all. They're half
they're
game.
in the wild card. They have a wild card right now.
Yeah, and they're half a game behind Jacksonville for the title in the AFC South.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. I mean,
They're playing with confidence.
they are.
I thought the Bengals were down big yesterday, and they came back and beat the Vikings.
And they lost Jamar Chase early in that game.
Yeah.
And they still
Big
came
loss,
back and won.
big loss by the Vikings, though, because that was a game they needed to win.
It was.
And, and Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd makes a big play. The Bengals have some depth anyhow.
And the Bengals, the Bengals play tigerish, right? Like Bengal tiger. They got
Yeah.
attitude. They get out there. They want to play. They got guys that are trying hard,
Yeah.
and they've rallied around Jake Browning, who, as people point
Oh
out,
yeah.
was in the Heisman race and was the dude in college. So I mean, not that everybody in the NFL isn't, but yeah.
No, and I enjoyed watching the Lions last night. They were vicious,
But
but they've been hot and cold. So I don't know. I mean, they're I think they're 10-4 right now, I believe.
well, if you look at their losses, they lost to, they lost to the Seahawks. I mean, their big win this year is against the Chiefs, right?
Right.
Because they lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Packers, and they lost to the Bears. But they haven't really played. I mean, the big team they played was the Ravens and the Chiefs. And they beat the Chiefs 21-20 in that first game of the season. But
Yep.
other than that, I mean, they beat
In Kansas City.
yeah. But they beat the Falcons, the Packers, the Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Bears. So it's not a murderer's row of teams they
No,
defeated.
it's not.
But,
But talking about the Chiefs, though, I'm not buying the Chiefs.
no.
As much as I was buying them in the beginning of the year, I'm sure not buying them.
No, and I did like that. Shout out to Mahomes for coming out the next day and admitting that he let his frustrations out, and that's not a good example for kids. I did appreciate him walking his comments back a little bit, right?
No.
And granted, they were both fined pretty heavily, he and Andy Reid, but I guess we'll weigh in on the Kadarius Toney. Like, he was offside. Like, I don't know what else it's like,
Offsides. Offsides is the rule. And like you pointed out with your best example of speeding, the cop doesn't necessarily need to warn you.
No.
Sometimes he does.
Sometimes he does.
And like sometimes they do it. And maybe if anything, it's inconsistent. Maybe we should ban warnings. But if you're playing the game, you should know when you're offsides. You should look down at the ball and adjust accordingly.
And it's usually tougher for the wide receivers that are out wide, right? Because they're furthest away from the ball. So they're, but at the same time, like, the field is marked with lines everywhere. And, you see where the line of scrimmage is, make sure you're lined up onside. It doesn't feel like it's that difficult. But I did see a number of NFL vets on, like, the talking head shows being like, yeah, they're supposed to warn you. And I'm like, are they, do you warn about every rule or just some rules? And then it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre.
Totally bizarre.
But the Broncos did get their butts kicked yesterday, so the Chiefs are still 2 games ahead, and they're going to win their division pretty easily, I think. Right?
And while we're on the subject of Kadarius Toney, I just don't think he's that good.
No.
I mean, I question whether he's an NFL quality receiver.
Well, much like our Mitch Trubisky conversation, Kadarius Toney has the ability at times to look like Tyreek Hill. It's rare, but he's got that jerkiness, that suddenness, and that speed that just, makes you salivate, but he can't stay healthy, and he can't apparently learn plays or follow rules. So,
but he's got the hands of one of your all-time favorite Steelers to critique.
Dwight Stone?
The white hands of Stone.
Yeah. Yeah, the Chiefs in general have just been a mess.
Disappointing. But, part of that is because they just don't. I mean, I don't know what Rice is going to turn out to be a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But he's the best of what they have right now, and he's a rookie.
And he was a second.
They missed on Sky Moore. I mean, he's not anything.
No, he's bad.
Scantling is not. I mean, they don't have the talent at wide receiver. If they had the Steelers wide receivers, they might be undefeated.
Yeah, very easily. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And hopefully this will not affect Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship, the negativity that, the fans blaming her. Because I don't think she has anything to do with the Chiefs' problems. She seems like she's been a good fan. And I'll say it's the best I'll give her.
So the most interesting game of the day is probably Buffalo and Dallas, right?
Oh, easily. Buffalo's favored in that game, by the way.
What's in Buffalo?
Yeah.
And the weather's going to be nasty, and Dallas usually doesn't play well in nasty weather.
No. And it's a giant game for Buffalo because Buffalo's sitting at 7-6, and they really need this game because Cleveland's at 8 wins, Cincinnati's at 8 wins, the Colts now have 8 along with Jacksonville, Kansas City. The Broncos still have 7 wins, so they can't afford to fall. And the Steelers,
They got to win.
Say what you want to say about them, but the 7-7 Steelers are still technically in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's by far the most exciting game. And then there's some other, We're doing this Sunday morning, so the games haven't started yet. I'm curious about Bears Browns, obviously because the Justin Fields conversation. He's been playing really good lately, and if he can get a win over the Browns and keep this team in the playoff hunt, do you do something different with the first round pick if it looks like he turned the corner?
Yeah, that is interesting. You look at, and Joe Flacco, can he keep the magic going for 3 weeks in a row?
Yeah. I'm oddly interested in Chiefs Patriots just because we just talked about the Chiefs and they're a fascinating team, right?
Right.
And then we got Cutlets going in here in New Orleans today against the Saints. And can Tommy Cutlets get it done again?
He's the best story in the NFL right now.
He is. It's a fun story.
His Rocky-looking brother.
Yeah, it's a very fun story.
Or a Paulie-looking brother, I should say.
Yeah, and they've embraced it, and it's
Yeah.
It's sort of reminiscent of a former New York story of Mr. Who am I thinking of? The basketball player that had an incredible month. Ended up in China. Jeremy Lin.
Jeremy Lin, yeah.
It's kind of got that Lin sanity where it's like, it's fun to watch, and it's really, you're watching very high level, but you wonder, like, is it going to phase out after a month? Or is it?
Except, especially on this one, because of the huge Italian population in New York, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
This is like their savior. This is like Rocky.
Yeah. I mean, you asked them to pick a quarterback, Tommy Cutlets would be the quarterback they want.
No question.
But, is Tommy Cutlets somebody you go in for, or is he somebody you're moving on from next year? So.
It depends on where you end up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an interesting story. I mean, but, people, once can they game plan for him, Can you be more? You're not going to, he creeped up on some people.
He did.
You don't expect anything. Now he went on Monday Night Football. Okay, now everybody knows who he is.
It's true. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Last week we had nothing but praise for the NBA with their wonderful in-season tournament and LeBron and everything else. And then this week we've had some very not great NBA stories, right? Starting with Draymond Green.
The Draymond Green thing, I mean, it's obvious that he needs counseling.
Obvious.
I mean, he's just out of control.
Because even after the game, like him pretending that wasn't on purpose, like it just...
Yeah.
And I thought he believed himself, or at least was delusional enough to believe because he wasn't like, he had his hand on him, but he wasn't yanking him or pulling him. And Draymond, like, spun around as hard as, like, it was crazy. And you saw, like, the reaction of his teammates on the bench, right? Which I thought was the best meme.
Yep.
Just that exasperated, like, are you serious? Like,
no, I just can't, he's out of control. On a nice note, I love the way Dame has fit in now, how Dame's playing.
Yeah. What did you think about
really
the
good
ball gate with Giannis running into the locker room to try to get the ball back from the Pacers after scoring a franchise record 64 points?
Well, I actually think the Pacers should have been, well, they probably weren't aware of it, and they knew their guy, it was his first basket. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on it.
Yeah.
Giannis can score 60 again. This kid can never score his first basket again.
No, it's that odd thing, though, because technically he scored his first basket in in-season tournament, but it was in the game that doesn't count towards regular season stats. So this was his first, official NBA basket that counted on the record, but it wasn't his first basket scored in an NBA game, if you're counting every game in the in-season tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But, you do like to, you can never question Giannis's passion for the game.
Never.
Even if you think it's kind of silly and you're like, it's just a ball, man. But
no, I can never question his passion.
No. I thought that, and then, these teams have played, they played in the in-season tournament. It got chippy. The last game was chippy. They're both in the playoff hunt. So on some level, it's kind of exciting to see, like, this kind of, bad blood basketball. Like, not that you want the bad blood, but, sort of that real that.
You like that intensity up a level is what you like.
Yeah, I do. And it feels like they're bringing it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I do too. I mean, you play 82 games, and if you get a real rivalry going and it's exciting, it makes it better.
I mean, as of right now, the Bucks are the 2 seed, and the Pacers are the 7 seed. So there's a chance they can meet in the first round. I mean, obviously we have a lot of season to play. We're not even in the All-Star break yet, but right now they would play each other in the first round of the playoffs, and that would be fantastic.
The other good story, the Timberwolves saga keeps going on.
19-5 right now, best record in the West.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And then right behind them, Oklahoma City, coming off Chet Holmgren's his block party, 9 blocks in a game.
And we knew Oklahoma City was going to be good because they were decent last year when they weren't expected to be.
Exactly.
And then they got Holmgren back, plus their other guys. So I like them. They're a fun team to watch.
And I watched an entire game. I watched the Spurs beat the Lakers for their 4th win of the season.
And Wemby looked pretty good.
Wemby looked pretty good. As you look about teams that, I don't think it makes any sense because you're the Spurs. Like, you just want to get your young guys playing time and, get to the draft with the highest pick as possible. And right now you would have the 2nd or 3rd pick in the draft. And I'm not sure who the guys are in this year's draft. They haven't really emerged yet, but
it's hard because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know anybody. There's nobody coming back that you're familiar with because they all go somewhere else.
But a team that desperately needs to get rid of some players, like Golden State, like, you would almost love to see a Chris Paul with a Wemby for a year. Somebody that can get him the ball in places he likes, sort of teach him a little bit, be sort of that mentor. Because Golden State, I don't know what you do, right? Draymond's...
It's like, the last year of the Steelers, when they kept the Steelers around too long.
Yeah.
And even though they'd won 4 in 6 years, they were around a little too long. And then everybody caught up to them, and then they kind of went on the decline. That's kind of what you have with the Warriors.
It's a shame, because Steph is still apex Steph, I think. I know he's 34, but he's still...
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
But Draymond suspended indefinitely. Wiggins is just... He had like 1 run in him, and he's done. Klay Thompson is toast. And then the young guys didn't work out. And you're now a team that... You were a very unique team when you won your titles.
Yeah.
And now you're a very small team that can't play against Minnesota and Denver and these other teams. Like, you just,
No. I mean, you changed the way the game was played.
You did.
And now other teams are changing the way the game's played, and you don't have the personnel or the approach to play that style.
No, and it's a shame. But, yeah, it's just sad to see Steph on, a team that looks like a lottery team at this point.
Yeah.
And like I said, you could just see the body language when Draymond did that punch. Like, it looked just like parents looking at their child for like the 10th time telling them not to touch the stove. And it just was just exasperation where they were just like, it's seriously like, this guy's doing this again?
Yeah.
And this is going back to punching Jordan Poole, choking out Rudy Gobert. When you watch the Rudy Gobert choke, it's really disturbing. So.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be out quite a while. Speaking of being out quite a while, John Morant comes back.
Yeah.
I saw his press conference. I wasn't impressed.
No one seems to be.
Because he still said, Ja needs to be Ja. Well, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
If it's the Ja that's got to be carrying a gun around and waving it around, then you're going to be suspended again. So you don't need to be that Ja. You don't need to be that version. But he's trying to make the point by being true to himself. But, yeah, you do. But you've got an obligation of the people paying you and the people playing with you.
And it seems like, yeah. And I'm sure he had access to a fixer or a speechwriter, right? And someone could have been like, you could be like, look, I made a mistake. I'm focused on basketball. We still have a chance this season. I'm going to get back and I'm going to be Ja on the court. The same old Ja on the court and a different Ja off the court. Like, it feels like there's so easy ways to say it and make yourself look good. And he just seemed to go out of his way to sound not.
Yeah, and if you've seen that press conference, he might have set the Guinness Book record for
Yeah. It was impressive,
He could use a professional media person.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like I said, I can't imagine he doesn't have access to them with the Grizzlies.
I can't imagine his agent doesn't have him doing this unless his agent's clueless too.
Yeah. Well, now I guess we can move from one team, the Warriors, on their way out, to one team apparently going to dominate forever, and that's the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, I got to praise Ohtani because, as we talked a little bit last week, when you're going to take $2 million a year and defer $68 million,
yeah,
that lets the team do a lot. obviously they made it happen this week by signing Glasnow
Yeah.
for 5 years, $135 million. That they would not have been able to do if Otani was taking his regular chunk.
No.
So you put yourself in a position to address all your weaknesses through the free agency market because you've got the money, you're in LA, you're a glamour team, and you got Otani, and you've been close to the precipice the last couple of years. So, you're going to be a destination. You should be able to get anybody you want to come in and play and try and win a ring with that group of people.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that said, I mean, I'm going to find them very hard to root for, as much as I like Otani.
Oh, yeah. They're the ultimate haves over the have-nots. So, I mean...
Yeah. So, I won't be able to root for them.
No.
But, again, I mean, these are the rules until I think there's going to be some changes, but these are the rules.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to let this happen again because it totally diverts the whole salary cap and luxury tax and makes it non-competitive.
Yeah.
But they took advantage of the situation, so more power to them.
And they said that if Otani is benefiting anything from not paying California taxes on his deferred money, because when he starts getting paid, he probably won't be living in California anymore.
No, he can move.
Yeah. But they said the IRS will probably close that loophole too, but he might have slid under the radar with that one, which is pretty slick.
Yeah.
Because we pointed out, he makes a lot of money off the field too, so.
Almost between 35 and 50 million. So, yeah, he's not hurt.
No.
I'm going to the NCAA volleyball finals today, Texas versus Nebraska. Nebraska's lost one game all year. Texas is the defending champ, should be good. Texas has 3 girls that are daughters of former NBA players. And like I said, Nebraska's just really, really good. They beat Pitt in 3 games, 3 straight the other night. And then Texas beat a Wisconsin team that had a 6'9" and a 6'7". So that's impressive. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah. And I guess for just some of our fantasy people out there, Tyreek Hill is not playing today. If that's important to you.
Tyreek Hill's not playing today. Pacheco's not playing today.
Yeah.
Who else is not playing today? It's a long list.
It's a long list, yeah, but those are a couple of big ones. Because, I mean, you got this weird Jets team versus the Dolphins, and the Dolphins need this win, but no Tyreek Hill, and that's a very different Dolphins team.
Totally. I mean, it's without him taking the lid off. And Waddle is kind of inconsistent. He drops some balls, and he looks like he makes mistakes on his routes a number of times.
He does. Chris Olave for the Saints is out, and it looks like Jalen Hurts has been downgraded because he's getting sicker and sicker, which I can relate to as I'm not feeling that well myself for the Monday night game. I mean, I always got, 36 hours to get, fluids and everything else, but some pretty big stuff in the NBA. Yeah. Pretty big.
Okay, food moment. I went to a place called Station House Barbecue yesterday.
Okay.
And the guys were walking around. It's all in the salt. And they had these T-shirts on that said, all about salt. And it was the saltiest barbecue I've ever had.
That doesn't sound appealing to me.
No, it was over-seasoned. It was very tender. Very tender.
I get that part.
Very over-seasoned.
Okay.
And, it's very over-seasoned. In fact, I peeled the bark off my brisket.
Oh, and the bark's
just ate. Yeah.
Yeah, I love bark.
Yeah, it was just too, it was like over the top spicy.
Yeah.
Salty, spicy, not spicy. So that was kind of disappointing.
For the second time, because we went to World Market, my food moment are Tim Tams. It's that, It's a British Australian cookie. They're just delicious. It's a double wafer with some sort of cream, and it's covered in chocolate. The ones we have caramel as the cream. It's just really high quality chocolate. It's a good crunch. It's a really good cookie.
Okay.
That's my food moment. Should we do do you want to read the trivia question for the people, and then they can have something to ask people the holidays?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, if you count the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL, 6 of those franchises, there's 6 examples where they share the same name. So the first example you came up with, the Arizona Cardinals and the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep.
Then you got the New York Giants and the San Francisco Giants. It is a
And
lot of
that's all
hockey.
we'll give you. Let them figure the rest of them out.
And you figure the rest of them out. You would tweet at my dad if you want. And there's
Yep.
4 more. Yeah.
What did we decide about the show next week?
I think let's come back in the new year, I think is the best way to go.
Okay.
Um,
So we'll come back. What date would that be, Jay?
let's see. People love live on the air date stuff.
December 30th. We come back New Year's Eve or come back after that?
Come back after that. We'll do a show the first week of January, and then we'll be back on a normal track after that. Because I know people are traveling over the holidays, and I know a lot of podcasts just shut down. And I think our numbers are down those weeks too. So if something incredible happens, maybe we'll get on a call and put up a short one. But
All
for
right,
now,
look
that's
for us
the plan.
after January 5th.
Yeah. I do recommend, this was the Christmas SNL. Kate McKinnon was back. And it was a pretty solid Christmas episode of Saturday Night Live. And it was the funniest Colin Jost, Michael Che exchange of joke gifts maybe ever. Even though it was the shortest one. So,
Well, I didn't get to see it last night, so I can hardly wait.
yeah, they added a new element this year. They just took it to the next level, and it's fantastic. They are jokes that probably are going to get letters and posts and people angry about them. So if that's not your jam, then don't watch. But it seems like if you don't like it, you'll probably watch even more. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, listen, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Indeed. And have a great break if you get break time. And if not, good luck dealing with the holiday people. Hopefully they'll be nicer to you than they normally are this year.
Spend time with your family and your friends.
All right. So till next year, we're out.